Welcome to Lighten the Legal Career Path. I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. Whether you're a new attorney looking for inspirational guidance or further along in your career, wondering how to get to the next level, or someone that's just simply curious about the legal world, you're in the right place. We'll be talking to female and BIPOC attorneys not only about their remarkable stories of success, but the challenges they've faced along the way, the lessons they've learned, and their valuable insights about their career and the road ahead.
Hi, everyone. Yemi Adegbonmire here, Vice President of Legal and Associate General Counsel at Cineverse. It's so happy to be here this afternoon and looking forward to our conversation.
So we are going to dive into today's conversation. I'm Erica Moore-Burton, your host of Lighting the Legal Career Path. I am super excited about our conversation today with Yemi Adegbonmire. I've known Yemi for many, many years and thought that she would be the perfect guest for our show. She's had an incredible career, which we're going to dive into and learn all about what she does as a technology and entertainment attorney here in Los Angeles, California. Welcome, Yemi.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Erica. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Can't wait.
Awesome. Great. So why don't you give us, our listeners, sort of an overview? You've had a really successful career, and the reason why I've been really looking forward to this conversation, I met you probably over 20 years ago. I don't know if it was when you first came to Los Angeles, but we met through an entertainment attorney out here by the name of Gary Watson. And I remember meeting you. You had so much energy and so much passion, and you were very intentional at that time about how you wanted your career to kind of unfold. And it's been wonderful to watch your trajectory over the years. And I just want you to give our listeners sort of an overview about your role and your journey, and then we'll do a deeper dive.
Sure. Thank you again, and welcome everyone to the conversation. Sure. So if I think about my career, I would say that I am an avid consumer of the arts, and I've had a chance to sit sort of at the bleeding edge of technology. So when I was a lawyer at Disney, I first started working in Gary's firm, actually, as a boutique entertainment firm. Then went to work with a producer who was transitioning, was a lawyer actually, transitioning from providing the entertainment services to actually becoming a producer. And so I started doing the legal work while she transitioned to actually producing films. And then from there went on to Disney. And while I was at Disney, because I actually had a Facebook account because of when I graduated from law school, I still had a .edu address. I started doing ad tech. And so buying ads on Facebook, there were widgets at the time. And, fast forward a few years later, a few other career moves in between, ended up back at Disney working for Maker Studios, a company they acquired that was doing influencer digital marketing. And that whole business was ad tech. And so had sort of the time of my life working for a big entertainment conglomerate that didn't actually own the IP that they were trafficking in, which was a new space that was highly regulated. And then I left entertainment briefly to take the same beauty and power of storytelling that I learned working in the entertainment space and supported as a lawyer in the entertainment space into thinking about reimagining public safety. So I spent time as a general counsel of the Bail Project. And then, after all the George Floyd, that whole experience of, seeing that criminal legal system at work in America, decided to go back to entertainment and kind of back natively into storytelling and some of that. And so now I'm at a company called Cineverse, and we distribute enthusiast-driven content that's really anchored in a particular vertical. So whether that's you like watching Bob Ross, you like anime, you like horror, you like this or that. So we really do sort of fan-based entertainment experiences and give folks the deep satisfaction that they want in the verticals that they enjoy.
Wonderful. That's a great overview. Thanks so much for going into that for us. So let's go back to the beginning. When you sort of left Gary, you left the producer, you decided to jump into Disney, and now you're at Cineverse. What sort of, how did those roles come about for you specifically? And were you targeting both of those companies specifically? And what inspired you with both of those roles?
Yeah, so Bob Iger really saved and changed the entertainment industry with the iTunes deal
Mm-hmm.
when Disney decided to make their shows available on iTunes. And then also when we launched the player, where
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was 2 a.m. the next morning, you couldn't watch day and date, but you could watch the next day. Disney continued to innovate with the Scandal deal that they did with BET to
Mm-hmm.
expand the audience for Scandal. And so I grew up watching the movie of the week. I used to watch the Thornbirds as a kid. I don't know if now I'm dating myself a little bit, but I've been a big fan of the storytelling that comes out of Disney for years. And so went really just on an informational interview,
Right.
and with this magnetic personality, walked out with a job.
Awesome. She's like, just like that. It happened just like that. That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
how about that? As you transition to Cineverse as well, was it? Look, hey, look. I agree. You've got an amazing, and I think that's what drew me in the first place when we first met. I'm like, this girl is on fire. She's just got so much personality as well. I see her doing big things, and you absolutely have as well. So I love that. Look, if we don't toot our own horn, who else will? You know.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's right.
and how about that shift to Cineverse as well? Tell us a little bit about, was that very targeted in that company specifically as well? I'm always
Yeah.
intrigued as to how people make decisions about those companies as well.
Yeah, so I was interested in Cineverse because they've always been a technology-based entertainment company. And
Mm-hmm.
so, 20 years ago, they helped to digitize cinema. So we went from the reels to having a digital, I mean, 15 years ago, went to, digital exhibition of films. Cineverse was the company that did that for all of the exhibitors across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I was thinking about how to connect in and touch on artificial intelligence and machine learning
Mm-hmm.
as an important part of the business that for Cineverse also. And so, to again go back to that bleeding edge of technology, it was a great time for me to do that, and also to learn more about audiences. Right, I've always been at the biggest, most popular entertainment company that where the Marvel films, everybody's running Pixar, everybody's runing to that. But
Right.
there's a different fan base that you cultivate and you cure in a company that has more it's, I don't even want
More
to say
niche.
niche, but
Yeah.
just, yeah, not exactly niche, but
Yeah.
where in the same way that Disney does this as well with Star Wars, right there, that's a
Mm-hmm.
particular fan base, and they service those titles and that IP consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to see that with a few genres that I didn't have as much exposure to. So I'm doing a lot now in horror, which I am
Oh,
not
interesting. Okay.
particularly familiar with, but
Yeah.
a very important part of the business. And so I'm learning. I've gotten to go out and look at those audiences in real time, and the festivals
Mm-hmm.
and the other distributors, and just to learn more about the other entertainment partners that you have in that business versus a different one.
Great, wonderful. So as you just mentioned, AI. Look, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's, that question is out there: is AI going to take over? I'm intrigued to understand more about AI and how you've seen it evolve just within your role and the role of, AGC and legal. Like, how has it changed your role, or how do you see your role evolving with the advent of AI as well? And I know that AI didn't just come out this year. We have had some sort of iteration of AI,
Right.
but I'm just talking about now that it's sort of, extremely prevalent.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we're working on and helping folks do, we're looking to connect creators to found money. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have a library that you're not exploiting, and there's an opportunity to train these large language models by pulling in your film library, we want to bridge that, and we can represent that and build that bridge, because you're not necessarily making money with that content sitting there in
Mm-hmm.
your on your hard drive, right?
Huh, that's
So
interesting. Yeah.
there's a place for that, to just look at what economies we can help set up and do it
Mm-hmm.
in a manner where creators have control over it, and as opposed to that data being scraped and folks feeling like they don't have to really pay for the training that happens with those models, and so we want to kind of step into that gap. And then I still say, and I'm happy to say, and the general counsel of the Copyright Office was actually one of my former bosses.
Right.
And I think it was very important that the Copyright Office, and thinking about AI, there's sort of the copyright originates from a human. And so
Yes.
that's a really important tentpole as we look at the space and also protect the copyright interest of creators, because we have to look at the market function, and
Right.
to make sure that it still comes from a human is going to be important. And at the same time, while things may not be copyrightable, they could still have an economy around them where there is profit, even if there's
Got it.
not a copyright, right? But because you still have people signing up to uh, work within the large language models, which are leveraging other people's copyrights, right? There's still
Right.
the money's
Exactly. I always
pushing
wondered how
into
that sort of worked.
right. So it's an area, and I've said this in other spaces I've spoken to. I think creators and those of us that just in general, we have to think about the economies that we're creating using this technology. Um, it's going to be pervasive, as folks have agents that are going to start doing the pre-work that you have to do in order to start your day, right? There's
Right.
going to be some AI agent that knows every Thursday you have to get this done, every second Wednesday you have to do this, right? So there are things about life that are going to be routine, and that are
Right.
going to eventually be set up and outsourced and serviced, uh, digitally. And I just hope that folks are aligning with that reality and figuring out how to make as much money as possible. I'm still
Right.
thinking about that for myself too.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's interesting. And you're thinking about that for yourself in terms of like creative projects, or just your role as a lawyer in this space.
So I don't know that I'm creating a product that, as a lawyer, that I would necessarily use, but trying to understand if I, as my own brand,
Right.
right,
Okay.
want to automate some things for myself. How
Ah,
do I
interesting.
leverage
Yeah.
these inanimate tools,
Right. Right.
right, that free up some space for me if I want to edit? Now, I've been doing a bit of writing, and so sometimes I will emote, and I'll just talk about some things I'm feeling. And as the tool gets to know you better, it will pull together a journal entry for me, because I'm not great at journaling. I don't
Wow.
like it, so I
Yeah.
don't want to do it, but I need to start doing it more.
Yeah.
And so if I could just type out these like 8 sentences, just spit it out
Yeah.
and end up with a whole entry, that's helpful to me. I'm not going to turn that into a book,
Right.
but it gets me in the practice of going to the computer every day and putting my fingers on the keys. And
Got
that's
it.
part of things becoming a lifestyle for you, and a habit, once you incorporate that practice in daily. So that's where I'm leveraging it now, and eventually I will have written my book, and or whatever
Yeah.
things I'm going to do,
We'll
whatever
be reading
products
your
I'm
book
going to
next.
do.
So as just to go back as well. So as far as your day to day in the ways that you use AI as an attorney right now, has that changed in the last 5 years, day to day, with the contracts that you're working on, the deals that you're looking at, the licensing, terms, or anything like that?
Yeah, it has. And I was a little reluctant, to be honest. For privilege reasons and other things, you don't necessarily want to air out what you're working on in
Yeah.
one of these large language models. But it is helpful to understand why, one of the tools has given you an answer, right? Sometimes I'll say, "Where did you get that? What did you rely on?
Yeah.
Show me two other contracts." In a way that is, more client friendly, versus one that's more, favorable given my position. That type
Right.
of thing. So I can just understand what's happening and why. Um, and there's so much to learn in looking at SEC filings, and various disputes. And so sometimes there can be sort of a deep uh, culling of the internet to understand where there are places of dispute and conflict, and what provisions are uh, pervasive, but not necessarily effective.
Right.
And
What's
so sometimes
working,
it's
what's not
helpful to learn,
working.
like, yeah, like when,
Right.
when that choice of law provision comes up, like, what does it really mean to
Yeah.
say without giving, effect to its conflict of law principles? I mean, I write in every, what's that really mean? Right.
Right.
What's it
Right.
come down to?
Right.
And so it's been helpful in that sense. It's because some things get to be more efficient, that it allows me to, uh, just ask questions that I wouldn't have necessarily taken the time to ask before, but they're so easy to ask now
Got
that
it.
I will.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you a little bit later about some of the things that Cineverse is working on, because I heard you mention elsewhere about how Cineverse and AI is sort of um, implementing or have implemented a model whereby you can throw in, hey, I'm feeling like this, what movie should I watch now, like what movie should and I've been actually doing that with chat, and it's been very accurate, and it's saved
Yeah.
so much time on Netflix, saved so much time with me scrolling as well, and it's been
Wait a
pretty on
minute now.
point.
I'm going to have to tell our CTO that you're going to Chat GPT. You need to be looking at Cinesearch. The product is called Cinesearch. Everybody go to Ava. Ava has she can have a British accent if you
Right.
want. Ava, can take.
Really, that's hilarious. That's so funny. But again, it's about AI helping you, right?
Yeah.
And culling down time, efficiency, all of that sort of thing. Just a funny story. This weekend, I was with my daughter playing volleyball, and she was exhausted, and I'm like, "Hey, Chatty," I call it Chatty G. Hey, Chatty, we're exhausted. She just finished a volleyball tournament. We're looking for a mom-daughter movie to watch. We're kind of feeling a little tired, and it came up with like 5 titles. The one we picked was Moxie, and it was just such a great movie for her and I to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard you mention that about the tool that Cineverse has, I was just like, wow, that's so on point, right? And it's wonderful. So for our listeners, Cineverse has a tool for that.
Yeah, Cinesearch. Cinesearch is the name of the tool, folks. It's Cinesearch. You
Cinesearch.
don't have to
Okay,
go
we
to
will have that in our
Chatty.
show
What do you
notes.
call it? Chatty G?
Chatty G.
Chatty G. That's really cute.
Chatty
I
G.
like to nickname things too, so that's fun.
Always doing that.
Hi everyone, Yemi Adegbonmire here, Vice President of Legal and Associate General Counsel at Cineverse. It's so happy to be here this afternoon and looking forward to our conversation. I suppose I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about some of the fun things I've done in my legal career. I have been recognized by the LA Times as an outstanding in-house counsel, recognized by the Los Angeles Business Journal twice as General Counsel of the Year as an honoree. As a nominee 2 times. I've also spoken all over the country and even the world. I've taught in Thailand, spoken at Sundance multiple times. Just in general, I'm a person that loves sharing what I've learned and gotten to see in my legal career. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you all today. And I'm so excited to be here.
I wanted to focus of our conversation here to really sort of dive into life as an in-house lawyer, and really sort of talking about the lawyer versus the actual business, and what you've had to deal with in previous roles, in your current roles. But for our listeners who may be newer attorneys that are thinking about entertainment and just wondering, okay, what does in-house life look like? Number one, what are the metrics, the indicators to measure success in being an in-house lawyer? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. There are a couple things. Some of it's just pure efficiency, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
lawyers are typically seen as a cost center. I've
Yes.
always been on the revenue side of the business, and so I don't think of myself that way because I'm facilitating and turning on empowering money. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think of myself as a cost center. Um, my advice for younger attorneys and folks at the beginning of their practice or just starting in house, um, you know, what you definitely want to do is make sure, particularly if your area is regulated, and working in advertising is an area that can be quite scrutinized and heavily regulated, particularly if you're looking at kids advertising or advertising to certain demographics, then it becomes more highly regulated and scrutinized. And the big thing you want to do is you want to set up systems that allow your business partners to work in their business as it evolves, as it expands, as the clients' needs change, the third party clients. change. You want to empower them to work without you being there. And so I always try to set up systems. I always try to educate my clients on the things that would keep me up at night. And
Okay.
so if I kind of tell you what I would be worried about, then as you set up this business, as you have conversations with your potential business partners, I want to have those conversations early so that if there's a moment of conflict, there's an issue within the business that we're doing, that we have already really thought about it and we know how to work through it without getting lawyers involved, without having the relationship turn into something that's acrimonious, but is actually really focused on the initial reason why we came together, which was to do business and to make money together.
Right.
And so I try to duplicate myself and my clients is sort of the short answer there. And then I also try to, if a regulator were ever to look at an area in which I'm working, I want them to feel comfortable that there's nothing to see here.
Right.
I am a low enforcement priority. Okay. And even if you wanted to come over here, your boss would be upset that you spent time looking over here, because what you should have seen from the outset is that we were paying attention to what you wanted. And we've already put in place all the parameters, all the guardrails, all the things in place to indicate that we are good actors.
Excellent.
Right?
Excellent. No, I love that response. So let me ask you for some sort of anecdotes that you may have to share when this has been your mindset on how you work on things, but that has been contested, or you've received some pushback from the clients as to some of the strategic moves that you're making as well. How have you handled that? Do you have any anecdotes, any stories of any pushback that you've had and how you've been able to navigate that with those individuals?
Yeah. So my new question is, okay, how much money is this contract gonna make us? That's my new question.
Okay.
Right. And I ask that in part because then that lets them know, well, how much risk are you going to put the company in over how much?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Answer your own question here.
$10,000 contract, and you don't want to have any limitation liability clause. You don't have any, you know what I'm saying? So once we kind of have that conversation, folks can get in touch with that. I'm not saying that happens at my current company, but I'm just saying, like, that's a question I think is important to ask because it puts us all on the same page. And then that also, in all fairness, is a guiding point for me, because sometimes we're just trying to get through the deal to prove I'm not a model. And so if I treat this like a test agreement, maybe I only make this a 6-month contract or a 3-month contract, or we do, right? So we kind of want to just get it done. We can get it in, or, marking things as non-precedential is also something for, the young lawyers listening, or a particular provision in the contract you may flag as non-citable, which means don't raise it later. Don't tell anybody I let you put this in an agreement when you work with me. Okay? Right. And so I will use either one of those from time to time if it's really to move the needle and get to the next deal, then that can be important from a pipeline perspective.
Smart. That's smart. I like that. Has there been a time when your advice has just flat out not been taken, and the business may have suffered for it, and what has that taught you generally about timing, communication, or your influence as a lawyer within a corporate structure?
Yes, that has happened before, where, just it was moving fast, it was a priority. It's somebody, we know the folks that are connected, the folks just want to get the deal done.
Yeah.
Sure, that's happened. I usually try to find 1 or 2 places where I can put in a standard of execution that gives us an out. Right. So if the performance doesn't meet like this level, it will trip a conversation.
Right.
Between the executives that wanted to get into this deal and say, well, man, you didn't really, I asked you for this and you kind of only you didn't really do that. So it's not at the level I was asking for. You see how we put this standard in? And that's been helpful.
Okay.
But sometimes things unravel, and thankfully I knock on wood here, but again, because I can have a little bit of a reputation for being a hard negotiator because
Right.
you want to
I
you
can
I
imagine
want to make
you
sure
do.
you
You
want
are.
to do this deal.
Right.
Okay. So we kind of talk about everything. So I have a little bit of a reputation for that. And
Mm-hmm.
so typically, I mean, I'm fortunate that my contracts have never ended in any kind of litigation, knock on wood.
Right.
And I think
That's
in
fine.
part
Some.
because we've had those very fulsome conversations at the outset, and
Got
we
it.
know when it's time to walk away or unravel it, we can
Mm-hmm.
because everybody was clear on what was important to
Got it.
each of
So
them.
you have been very vocal, even if your viewpoint is opposed to your business partners or your clients, or per se.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be a little thoughtful about that,
Diplomatic.
but yeah, I, I understand that a if when there's misalignment,
Mm-hmm.
we should understand what that's about
Got it.
before we get into a business relationship.
Right. Right. And I love that. Let's put that piece on the table that we're not aligned here before
Yeah,
we
and
move
so
forward. Yeah.
what do you really want? What are you looking for? We keep going circling the drain on this term,
Yeah.
but what is it that you really want? Right? Oh,
Got
well,
it.
we're really doing this other business over here, so we kind of want to be able to get out the contract early because we don't like it. Okay, well, you could have said
Okay.
that, and now we can write it this
Exactly.
way. Exactly, no
Exactly.
problem. Now I
Now I
understand what's going on.
understand.
Yeah,
Let's get to the root of it.
yeah, exactly.
Asking those questions.
Yeah,
Got it. Got it.
exactly.
So thank you for that, and that's a really interesting point as well, because as we know, that comes up, and some people are more vocal than others, and some people just kind of go along to get along, and others are just like, no, 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 let's address this. So I like the way that you've phrased that as well. Going back and sort of taking a bird's eye view on your career as a whole, can you share some times along your journey that when things haven't gone as you planned, right? Or you've felt like you've failed at something.
Mhm.
What did you take away from that? What was that experience? What did you take away from it? And how were you able to move forward?
Oh, so, I have sort of good experiences there and then, ones that would be sort of hard and painful to share.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I realized I touched the outer edges of my own capacity. And
Okay.
that is strange to
Yeah.
feel as someone that's always overachieved. And, we have like 3 or 4 skeletons as Black people in this country
Right.
that have, been the strongest humans to, work the land of this nation. They had to
Mm-hmm.
import us here, those of us that have African American lineage, as being here as Americans. And I have both. My dad's Nigerian, my mom's American, so I have a little bit of both, some chattel slavery history, and then also straight from the motherland history.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh, that's
but
an interesting. That's a whole nother conversation for
yeah,
us.
we
That's
can
a
talk
whole
about
nother.
that, right? But you sort of like Wolverine. You have 2 skeletons, right?
Right.
Wolverine from X-Men. Okay, we have 2 skeletons. And so I just hadn't had an experience where I reached my own capacity. At some points that came when, 3 or 4 years ago, as I was invited to do more and more press,
Mm-hmm.
I shied away, right? I
Interesting.
actually
Okay.
didn't want to be, um, I preferred being a little bit more of a hidden figure. Hidden
Right.
figure a little heavy, but I preferred being a little, just working at my desk and completing my tasks and doing that. I didn't necessarily want to be out in front, and I didn't realize that about myself because there's a part of me as
Interesting.
somebody that's an artist that would have like very much wanted and would have and thought in my mind that I would seek fame. But
Right.
given the opportunity to have more notoriety, I actually was skirting interviews, hiding. I was hard to get in contact with.
Interesting.
All of
Can
these
we
things.
talk a little bit about that? Can we get
Sure.
in there a little bit? Let's get in there.
Sure.
I want to know why you're so dynamic, so personable. You've got the receipts, as they would say, right?
Yeah.
So what was there for you?
I didn't want to have to be relied on in that same way, right? I there was something about that. I was already, I was 40, young, GC, doing this, doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's an always on to that. And I didn't want
Yeah.
another place where I had to be on.
Okay. Okay.
And it wasn't as arduous as I thought it was in my mind,
Got it.
but
Okay.
for me, it felt I didn't have enough family around me, other supports where if I something slipped, that somebody would put groceries in the refrigerator. Somebody would fill the car up with
Got it.
gas. Even just those
Yeah.
little things can
Mm-hmm.
help you get through a moment. And I was out of those things. I was just buying my house. And I just couldn't take another space
Got it.
um, where I was totally in charge.
Got it.
And
So the fear,
yeah,
so it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was some fear associated
yeah,
with dropping a plate, and you were
yeah,
spinning all these other plates,
exactly.
right? But nothing to do with necessarily your view about your worthiness or anything. Like you knew you were. It was more to
Yeah,
do with, okay, I'm balancing these plates. I don't want to be able to drop one because there's
yeah.
nobody to catch that for me.
Yeah, and also there's
Okay.
gonna be more to come. As they start to
Right.
get to see and know me, there's gonna be more of it, and I'm gonna have
Ah.
to show up in these ways. I'm tired,
Yeah.
and I want to have an opportunity to be more of a student and learn other things to
Mm-hmm.
get even better. But it's gonna pick up a pace that I may not be able to run. So not fear. So the fear of really dropping the plate out of not, and this probably speaks to not growing up in a home with other executives,
Right.
right? So I didn't have that model to understand how to press through that, or that
Mm-hmm.
parent to call and say, hey, my career is changing in this way.
Got
How do
it.
I get ready for that? What do I need to do? Et cetera. And at the time I didn't have a good exercise routine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were, I had other things that were going well, but like there are just habits that you have to develop
Right.
as you get to these levels. And I wasn't sure how to do those at the time.
If you're enjoying today's conversation, please share with another attorney in your network and send us your questions to podcast@roundhillsearch.com. So going back now, right, because you've obviously been stepping more out, into the limelight, and it's, people want to talk to you, people want to hear your experience. Well, everyone's like, who is Yemi, right? So now that you're there, what advice would you give your younger self to, even if you have your exercise, there's this wellness piece, right, that
Yeah.
needs to be taken care of all the way along. But what advice would you give your younger self who maybe there may be other people out there in that same position, right, that as you were? What would you say to your younger self and to
Yeah,
them?
I would say, girl, do it anyway, and call Tia and get another therapist. Like,
Right.
you just got to get a therapist. And now you got to you talk to Chat GPT. Like,
Talk to
girl, just do
Chatty.
it. Yeah, go to Chatty. Girl, go to Chatty. Okay, is what I would say, because the things I was worried about, I would love to be sitting on that catalog
Yeah.
of interviews and that work.
Right.
But it's okay, because I still ended up, whatever, 2 years later, 3 years later, being recognized by the LA Times out
Yes.
of almost what felt like nowhere.
Yeah. That was, and
And
not
here I
once, but
am.
twice, right? You were
Yeah,
recognized by the Los Angeles Business Journal, right? Twice for
right.
your
Twice as
work.
GC
Yeah.
yeah. And then last year, recognized by the LA Times. So
Awesome.
I still got there,
Yeah.
right? And there'll be more to come. There'll be some other articles that'll happen. This is happening,
Yes.
etc. And
Is that little voice still in your ear though? Is that little voice still there? And how do you handle it if that little voice is still there?
yeah, she's still there. I'm a little tired.
Right.
But it's because but I'm gonna tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It's the practice, right? I have to get up and put my fingers on the keys every day.
Right.
And once I get that, like, I've had the exercise down, I have the food down. I mean, all that, you can all see that that's all coming together.
Yeah.
I have to get back to my roots as a writer
Got it.
and getting those keys down every day from in my own personal space,
Right.
because that frees my mind to think about other things during the day, so I can get my work done. It lubricates my buoyance,
Right.
really, right?
I
I
like
can
that. I
be
like
more
that
freaky
term.
about
Let's
it.
say it again. Let's say it again. So it lubricates your buoyance, right? And it's
Yeah,
finding those things that lubricate it, right?
yeah.
Sounds like it's the everything that you're doing. I like that. I'm going to use that if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah.
so Switching gears a little bit, that was really important because
Yeah, and it's interesting to be that candid and that revealing. Like, I
yeah,
don't know that I'm so happy that I've said this so publicly, but it's true. And I appreciate you asking. I appreciate you recognizing that you still hear it
yeah.
in there. Let me shake that out
Yeah,
too.
exactly. I feel like shaking it. But I not only hear it, I hear it with, if we look at season one, if we look at all the attorneys that we spoke to in season one, there's that thing there. There's something there. And I think that the more we talk about it, the more we can set up the next generation coming along to do it better. Even though we did it well, we were standing on the shoulders, right, of the great ones, but we've got that generation coming up. And I think conversation that we had last week with Sade. She's the president of the Black Women Lawyers Association here in LA.
Of course. Yeah.
We talked about that. We talked about exhaustion. We talked about, what do you do to keep it together? Because, we see the face. We see Yemi, in the LA Times, and she looks poised and professional, but there's a person behind that picture, right? And everybody's always dealing with something. So the more that we can share sort of some of those fears and how we deal with them as well, I think that makes the whole landscape better for everybody,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right.
So I want to switch gears a little bit, and just looking at time, we've got so much to talk about still. But you've been recognized for your work and the advocacy that you do for DEI. We know that's a big point of conversation right now with our current administration. We will not name names. But how have you been able to? Well, first of all, what are your thoughts, sort of given the climate right now and the space for DEI and how we move forward?
Yeah. So a few things, and I'm thankful that I've been asked about this from folks that are decision makers within their organizations, and so I think one, while I am disappointed that this is a reality, I do think let's avoid unforced errors. Okay, so you don't have to write up some stupid LinkedIn post or something. Like let's just get out the stuff that's going to bring you problems.
Right.
Okay, some of that that is trite. Like let's not do those symbolic things that are going to create issues and bring unnecessary attention. I'm disappointed, but I think that that's one thing. I think the second thing is I keep saying, where's your advertising budget? And then, are your relationship partners at these law firms, the Black partners, are they just on the assignment? Who's the relationship partner? From an investment perspective, if you are attracting customers, are you spending on Black media, on Asian media, right? That's simple. That's not DEI stuff. That's getting your customer. You should be spending dollars on the YouTube channels, on the TikTok, Snapchat channels of folks of multicultural media owners. Period.
Right.
Do that before you put up that dry LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
Run those numbers.
Right.
And so I've really been encouraging folks to start there and have a consistency there, and also to have your products, great products that folks want to buy across the spectrum. And then when you are connecting to your customers, you're connecting to the full panoply of people in general, because everybody's consuming what you have. Right. And you want to meet people where they are already consuming media or finding out about products or learning about things. And you want to connect with them in their natural outlets. And so if you're spending in those channels and you can apply that consistently, then there's nothing to sue you over.
Right. Because you're doing your work. You're running your business, basically.
You're running your business.
You're running your business.
That's it. Yeah. Run your business.
Yeah. Right.
And be like Rihanna, just smell great.
Right.
Yeah. Smell amazing.
Smell great.
I'm just joking because there's baccarat's back here. It's kind of random that's sitting there.
I'm just seeing it now. So then on the flip side, what about legal professionals that are sort of in their organizations, and this being the climate, and continuing to sort of champion DEI within their organizations, legal and otherwise?
So I have a couple pieces of advice. I think if you're inside one of these firms and you're a partner, you need to reach out to the folks that are in your orbit. You should have internal, um, uh, you know, publications and pieces on the work that you're doing. There should be some internal marketing that highlights your good work, and you should reach out and connect people because you never know who's sitting around with a budget. And every
Right.
time as I'm I have been fortunate to be a Black woman in this town with a budget from time to
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did summer at big law firms, but I didn't start my career. I started my career really at Gary's in a boutique entertainment firm. I didn't start my career in a big AM 100 firm. And so I didn't really appreciate this notion of the originating partner and that credit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really appreciate. I didn't understand how important that was.
Right.
But I learned about that at one point. And so when I open a matter, I open it
Mm-hmm.
very intentionally.
Okay.
I will call. Doesn't matter if the lawyer I know is in the practice group from which I need the work.
Right.
But I know the lawyer I'm going to call, I have a relationship with, and I call them, and they assemble the team.
Got it. Smart.
And so where I can, and I know a lot of folks in town, and so when I've done that, that has been a little bit of everybody. That's been
Right.
women, that's been men, that's been Black. It's been a little bit of everybody. But I
Got it.
call, regardless of practice group, the person who I know can assemble the team for me.
Got it. Got it. And that's great. And that also speaks to another point that I've been really trying to disseminate on this podcast about business development. Like, you don't have to know how to do all the work, right? You can platform borrow, right? Platform borrow. So making those relationships and nurturing those relationships is so important from the onset, because you don't know when you're going to get that call from Yemi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you may not be the one, but now you can go to others and, as you said, assemble a team. So this is exactly
Yeah.
the point that I try and
Yeah.
hone in on.
I mean, I literally remember at one point knowing that a call was going to come in
Mm-hmm.
to a firm, and I called the
Right.
partner I knew and
Okay.
said, "Your boss is going to get a call in about 10 minutes. You better get down that hall
Yep.
and
And
tell
raise your
your
hand.
boss I called you first."
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Did did it did it
And
did it
And
yeah,
did.
and it came to fruition in a great way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. Listen
But
to that
but
story.
we have to tell people that I had only learned that how important that was maybe a year before that.
Yeah.
I would have been excited the year before that we picked the firm and that the partners I knew were going to work on it,
Oh
as
yeah, no,
opposed
it's
to
being
own
very
the matter.
intentional. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's being very intentional about that. But as you said, people need to know that so they can get that advice and implement it as well.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
they might be happy that the firm got the call too and they get to work on it. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That's not where the
Girl,
power
no.
is. That's not where the power is. That is not where the power is. So, okay, so another question for you. I wanted to ask you because I missed the event, the ACC conversation with Michelle Obama. I missed it. I was out of the country, kicked myself 100 times over. But how was that event? What did you take away from the previous First Lady from that event, and any nuggets of advice that even seeing her in that space at the ACC event? Talk to us about the actual event, and then talk to us about the importance of sort of attending those events as well, being a member of the ACC.
Yeah, so sure, and shout out to Gloria Lee and Rakuten. I appreciate the being invited to come sit at the table, and we all wore pink, or we had to wear a certain color so that we could get the First Lady's attention. It was a great
Love that.
way to bring unity among all of us. But the talk was fun and interesting in a certain way. One, I mean, it was great to see Najiri leading that conversation was wonderful, because a wonderful lawyer at Microsoft, and is just has a firm, nice space in town and in the community. And to see a peer of yours that and in your cell phone sitting and talking to the First Lady is just a wonderful
I'm
experience.
sure.
watching the, Jennifer getting honored, April getting honored, just knowing the women that were on the stage being
Yeah.
honored is also wonderful and beautiful. And so for younger lawyers too, when you start thinking about being involved in organizations like the ACC and just other organizations, you look up in 5 or 10 years and your friends are being honored. It's really is a really deep and beautiful community. And I really encourage folks to do that and to stay connected, whether that's Black Women Lawyers of LA, cable, all the things, all the bar associations, Langston, everything. And then the First Lady was interesting because this was right when her podcast was starting to, have hits that were picking up on social media. And so, but it was before the more personal nuggets came out, right?
Got it.
Right. They were still a little bit highbrow. This is before she got into the conversation with Tina Knowles about, who was bullying them when they were kids and things like that.
Right.
So we got a little bit of a preview of the more personal stories.
Okay,
And
nice.
she was very relaxed, and very, very open. And it was nice to see how well prepared the interviewer was to have a conversation with her. I, have the book, but necessarily haven't read the book.
Right.
But
Okay.
Jerry knew the text very well, so she was able to pull out stories. So it was a wonderful thing, a beautiful room, and it was also nice to see my outside counsel there too, because like I said, where you can do it, if you can be a Black woman with a budget in town, it's
Right.
nice.
Yes, no, it is. And again, kudos to you for building your career up in a way that you now do have that budget, right? Because, there are still many out there that don't have that sort of power. You're in a power, you're at the table. You're at the table. So I think that's an amazing thing as well. I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. As the president and founder of Round Hill Legal Search, I've spent over 2 decades connecting with incredible attorneys day in and day out. I decided it was high time that we share some of their remarkable stories, lessons, insights, and inspiration with the world. Join us weekly as we have wonderful conversations with our guests, or simply a session talking about some career tips, advice for you as you light your own legal career path. I feel like we've got a second episode with you because there's so much more that I wanted to cover, but we are out of time for this particular episode, which I'm sad about. But promise me that you will come back for a second conversation, because
Absolutely.
I would like to have you back as well. We are going to jump into Erica's Fun 5, and I love doing this because always really insightful to hear about books and advice and heroes and all of that sort of thing. So can you tell us about the best piece of advice that your mother or another influential woman has given to you over the span of your career or life? Doesn't have to be sort of career driven.
Yeah, so this is new for me. This is Dr. Anita Phillips, who has a book entitled The Garden Within. So the thing I always tell people is you gain nothing by living small. That's my own quote. That's my thing. I'm into that.
Yeah.
But Dr. Phillips talks about the fact that we use all this language that speaks of warfare when you think about the heart. And she says, the heart is not a battlefield. Your heart is a garden.
I like that.
And so I've taken that to heart, and I feel so nourished by that quote and that revelation, that tidbit. I feel really nourished by that.
Okay, so nurturing your garden, metaphor for the heart. Love that. Okay. What's the most impactful book you've ever read?
It's probably Singing, Swinging, Get Married Like Christmas. But for right now, I'm gonna say this one about Trust. AI by Dominique Shelton. Trust.
Dominique.
Yeah. Yes.
I have to have Dominique on the show.
Right here, but this is an incredible. It's almost like a treatise. It really, if you're trying to understand AI, privacy and just data leadership generally, it's a quite powerful and important book to read.
Excellent. What's the one goal that you haven't accomplished yet, but you want to before you expire?
And I would love there to be a universe in which I would be, really close friends with Janet Jackson.
All right, you've just put it out there. I'm sure you put it out there like 100 times before. But Janet, if you happen to be listening, there's somebody out here that would love to be your friend. You never know. 6 degrees of separation. Like you just don't know.
I was there on Saturday. I'm going back this Saturday. Janet,
are you serious?
Please, yes. 3rd row. I'm going back. I'll be in the 4th row next time. I love you.
You're like, let's do drinks. Let's do something. Anything.
And I hear she's coming back in September, so no worries.
Oh, really? Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay, your hero or shiro and why?
I'm gonna leave it with Auntie Maya, Dr. Maya Angelou.
Yes.
Brilliant orator. Efficient and masterful writer.
Yeah.
A warm and stern teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And a thoughtful human, and an artist who loved people and the arts and encouraged us to be our best and to love one another.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Yemi. This was amazing. I always love talking to you. There's so many gems in there. Appreciate your time. We will be having you back because there are lots of questions that we didn't get to, but I want to dive into. So continue rising and continue shining, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And congratulations on all your success.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm excited about this podcast and hope that we can really help that next generation, and just continue to light the path.
I love it.
Thanks for tuning in and listening. I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure that you share and subscribe to get new episodes as they come out. If you're an attorney looking for new opportunities, head to www.roundhillsearch.com to get in contact with one of our recruiting associates. And don't forget to send your career questions to podcast@roundhillsearch.com. Until next time.